Hello there, Sir from 17 once again. This is my Quake 2 Nightmare difficulty video walkthrough. Still making our way through the clusters of levels. Rocking a decent amount of HP, we've got some armor, and we're coming across some of the lasers in here. And this is, I think, one of our first encounters with the Barracuda, which is a swimming enemy in this game. There is a fish enemy in the previous Quake, so it's nice to see that they've got some follow through with that. I do appreciate it. And then we've got some lava in here with one of the human guards. That guy I think is called a light guard, but he might have a different gun. But keep moving forward, using all your tools, make sure you save. At this point, you pretty much know the gameplay loop of what's expected of you. You've just got to keep strafing, keep moving, make sure that you do not give them too much line of sight to do any tomfoolery. And if you ever get lost, as I do multiple times in this walkthrough, feel free to use the arrow to help point you in the right direction. It's very useful until it's not, but even when it's not, it's nowhere near as bad as the crow in Darksiders 2. That guy was drunk, he should be immediately disintegrated. Fucking terrible waypoint. And then we have a new creature here as well. This guy I do not like. This is a monster that's called Brains, apparently. Brains? That's his name? It's an interesting name, isn't it? So it's a unique creature because it has the capacity to use this shield. And it pulls you towards it, and it's got a decent amount of moves. It's definitely one of the more ambitious monsters in the game. But do as much damage to them as you can, put them down, and then move on to the next victim, which just so happens to be a gladiator. Which this enemy is really dangerous. You notice I never tried to keep him on screen. The hit scan is too strong. But I think at this point we've seen almost every enemy except for, is it 2? We haven't seen the Iron Maidens, and we haven't seen the elite tanks or the enhanced tanks. I don't know the name of them, but you'll know them because their HP is absurd. An absolutely dinosauric HP, it's madness. The rare footage of me finding a secret. It's not that I wasn't trying to find them, it's just that I don't mash E on enough places or shoot them. But in the previous video we were talking about this wonderful delusion of thinking that getting to X is going to automatically do Y. And as vague as that sounds, it's kind of the harsh reality of a goal, isn't it? When you set a goal without the understanding of what the goal really means, you can arbitrarily pass that goal without learning the lessons you think it's going to give you. And it's all about mindset. It's more so being a discussion about mindset. You know, you can learn a lot from very little, and you can learn nothing from a lot. It all depends on what you go in with. And we just got the railgun as well. This is one of the more iconic weapons. An absolute banger of a weapon. Sadly nerfed, though, at this moment in my game. And the nerf has been revoked now, which is really nice. It recently got patched. I think it was yesterday. Give you an idea of how, after the release, this commentary was, as opposed to the recording. Because I did record this like the week it released. But we're now moving into the Christmas period where the ad revenue is good, so YouTube's going to get, hopefully, a lot more lucrative for a small channel such as mine. But we've been talking about setting realistic goals. It's probably the best way of putting it. And then the pitfalls of... I suppose you could say it's the pitfalls of bad goals. And I suppose as long as you're developing and as long as you're motivated, no goal can ever truly be a bad goal. But it's like when people say practice makes perfect. There are better ways to practice than others. So if you do better methods of practice, you will get way more out of it. And I'm a big proponent of that. That to me is exactly how you should view it. Because it doesn't matter if you're doing a lot of practice if how you're practicing is suboptimal and indeed harmful. And I think we can put that information on anything, can't you? You can literally fire it towards any endeavour that you try to do. Like even playing Quake 2. There are ways that you can play this game that will be a lot more troublesome because you're not playing the game the way it's meant to be designed. Can you imagine if you stood still to shoot? That would make this game incredibly difficult. Because they just never expected you to do that. Even though when this game came out, people weren't strafing to the same extent that they are now. Strafing was quite a new concept that had been developed in the forge of multiplayer. The trial by fire of another human shooting you. You need to try and dodge while you shoot them, right? Juke and jive, the classic. Oh, here's a tank. But can you think of any moments, guys, where you've had a bad goal? Where you've focused on something that you thought was going to elucidate your meaning, and then when you got there you realised all you really did was waste your own time? Hopefully it was just time, maybe it was something else. Because I think if we check the annals of most of our experiences, we've all had moments like that. I think that's just the nature of the beast, isn't it? I think that's one of the reasons why I come down so harshly on it when people do express to me that they want to do this and they want to do that. Especially when it's in a pantheon that I know something about, because I'm not the best fighting game player. I know a decent amount about them, but I would never profess to say that I am, you know, the master or anything, because I'm far from it. I'm knowledgeable, but I don't put enough time in, which is a common ailment for many folk. And I think it's out of the zeal of wanting people to learn from my mistakes and learn from some of the things that I got hung up on. But I also think it comes from any position where you know that when you've made those errors yourself and you've gone down those paths that waste time, that take longer, I think sometimes it feels like an obligation, doesn't it, to give people the tools to ease their path a little bit. And that's what, you know, the developers are trying to do with these control schemes. That's what people are trying to do by finding cheesy ways to beat bosses. I suppose everybody's looking for a way, aren't they? Whereas, I think when somebody gives you some advice that you can then run with and interpret how you want and then use it and apply it to your own skill set, I feel like that is just something that, because you've deduced the value of it, it becomes more meaningful and more useful than just merely watching someone else do it. And I do find that quite interesting. Because there are people in this world that will struggle on a video game, and the first thing they'll do is go to YouTube and watch somebody do it, and then they'll emulate that strategy and they'll beat it and they'll have no problems. And they'll see no issue with it. Whereas, to me, you miss the opportunity to learn the game. But at the same time, the time it took me to learn the game, you progressed in the game, and maybe you beat it and moved on to something else, because at the end of all the discussions, it's always a value proposition of time. Because time is finite, and how you spend it is incredibly subjective, isn't it? It's incredibly personal. Like, some people spend their time leveling up to max rank on Destiny Island in Kingdom Hearts. Some people look at that and go, what the fuck, why would you do that? That's the interesting thing about humans, isn't it? We've all got something that makes us a little bit different, and it expresses itself in various ways. But sometimes it can be really fun if you play that social experiment of trying to look at it from the other side, trying to be part of that moment, and trying to understand what they get from it. Because right now, if we look at something like Lies of P, there are some tools in that game that essentially turn off everything people are complaining about. And if you've never heard of that game, guys, it's a Souls-like. It's a Souls-like that has a very skillful parry because the size of the window is small. It's one of the most skillful parries in a video game for a long time, and because of that, nobody likes it. Everybody thinks it should be like Sekiro, which has one of the loosest parry windows I've seen in a long time. Sekiro's parry window is so exploitable that you could give it to a fucking penguin, you could put a fish on a controller, and as the penguin picked the controller, trying to get the fish, it would parry the fucking bosses in that game. But what Sekiro did, which we're still paying for today, is it convinced an entire generation of nubs that they can fucking parry when they can't. And what Lies of P isolates rather eloquently, beautifully in fact, is that people do not want to parry. People want to easily parry and tell people they parried. Because the moment that window gets tight and it becomes real, they don't want anything to do with it. They want it nerfed, they want it made larger, they want it made easier. But what's the point of an advanced mechanic if any cunt can do it? You know, there's a big reason why anyone can get on fucking Jeremy Kyle. All you have to do is have more tattoos and teeth and preferably 6 kids with rickets. And any cunt can do that, dude. Horrible diet, rutting like fucking rabbits. Bang, you're famous. But does that mean you should? I don't think so. Not unless that's what you want to do. Do you want to become a Bill Hicks sketch embodified? Which is a combination of embodied and personified. Created a new word. Hashtag TM. Interesting question, isn't it? But can you imagine thinking that you're a, I quote, a parry master, and the moment a difficult parry comes along, you go, oh, this is not very good because it's not like this other game that has a really easy parry. It's funny that they say that though, isn't it? Because these people value difficulty more than anything else. They're always talking about difficulty. They're always saying how this is too easy because, you know, we're really cool now. We're triple souls veterans. And then they get a hard game with a hard parry, and what do? They don't parry. They use all the cheesy things. They beat it, and then they say it needs nerfing. And I find that fascinating because I had one of the hardest times with that game that you can physically have. And there's areas of it that I would like to be nerfed, but you don't touch the roll and you don't touch the parry, because anybody complaining about those two components, you're bad at the game. It's that simple. Your timing's bad. You're too heavy. It's the game's way of saying, take off some armor, you fucking pussy. End of story. And everybody who's good at rolling in that game, and everyone who's good at parrying in that game, has understood the limitations of those techniques, and then they've practiced the timings. And everybody that's bitching about them are the same people that bitch about anything else. They're the people on Reddit right now saying that the game is impossible and that you can't dodge any of the moves, even though there's pretty much everything in that game can be dodged. Even a move I didn't think was dodgeable, I found a way to dodge, you know? It's highly specific and you can't do it the first time it's done, so it's pointless, but it can be done. And it's mostly the bane of this internet sensation, the bane of this parasocial existence that we all partake in, is that we've convinced ourselves that what we have to say is meaningful, and everybody thinks that they're an expert now. And it's insane, because most of these people that leave these comments proclaiming to be experts have absolutely no proof of their achievements.